So basically, we're going to let people trickle. Yeah, there are more people coming in. But how are you guys today? Great.
Hey.
Who was here? Oh, Derek. Hey. So who, by a show of hands, who was here yesterday for the group panel? Oh, perfect.
Right.
And everyone who didn't raise their hand, is it your first day here at the show? Awesome. Welcome. This is awesome. I love seeing people out here, and I hope you're enjoying yourselves. You're in for a treat because we have Rachael Lillis here today. And as you know, she is the voice of Jessie, Misty, and so many other characters. And I'm going to let you do a full introduction for yourself. But first, give her a round of applause, please.
She's awesome. Thanks, guys. And I'd like to thank Game On Expo and Amina and John and everyone for having all of us. And it's excuse me. And it's been awesome. So I hope you guys are having a good time so far this weekend. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll kick off in a bit.
Yeah.
We'll give it a little bit more time.
We can. Yeah, people are still coming in. But you know what? Why don't you start?
Okay.
You can start. Yeah.
You can give it a start. Yeah. Okay. Well, so hello everybody, and how's everyone doing today? Are you like finding everything you're looking for in the dealer's room? I barely made a circuit because but I'm looking for something for my niece and nephew. But yeah, this is my first time in Phoenix, and
sorry about the heat.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they said that this is monsoon season, so they said it's barely raining. So normally you guys get a whole deluge, right? And oh, geez.
So this is what we get. Monsoon is a tease this time around. I mean, it's literally like it's gonna rain, but it's hot, and then it drizzles, and then it's done. But usually our monsoons are more spectacular. Like it's like a haboob sometimes. That's what we call them, right? With all like the dust. So we haven't had that yet, I don't think. So we're kind of waiting. Maybe you'll get to see it before the show's over. But
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Texas. We had dust storms, but I don't know. I don't think it's as intense as what you got here.
we get pretty intense ones.
A little bit of a vortex situation. No, we first moved to Texas when I was little. I was really super little, and the first month we had a very severe tornado, and we were out driving, and they announced it on the radio, and they said it's coming from, and my dad looked around, he's like, oh my God, it's right behind us. So we had to pull over, take refuge, because I saw a movie, an instructional movie in school. Oh, if you're out, you have to take refuge, you have to lie flat on the ground, and preferably in a drainage ditch. So we did that. So that was my first Texas tornado. It was very dramatic. And yeah, so there's the weather in this area of the country is just kind of funky. And then, New York City blizzards and everything. So, but no, it's very lovely to be here. And, and I am starting to do conventions a little bit more, like my colleagues. So bear with me, because this is like, I don't do a whole lot of panels, but I'm looking forward to your questions, your burning questions, and I hope you have fun.
So this is how we're going to do it. There are a few options. If you want to get up to the microphone to ask your questions, feel free, just start a line, or you can ask them in your seat, whichever is more comfortable for you. And then I'll just moderate, but really the floor is yours. So you're going to be basically directing this Q&A session. So have fun with that, and don't be shy. And I think that mic might have more of an echo that you have, Rachael. So I'm going to give this one to you.
Okay.
That one might be a little bit better.
Okay. Oh.
Right? I think it has an echo.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I can always...
You want to switch?
Yeah,
switch seats? Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that mic is a lot better. Okay. So yeah, you're going to be doing most of the talking.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys.
All right.
So first question, don't be shy. By show of hands, and then we'll...
Well, I could do a little intro or something, like I could tell you a little bit about what I've done. Would you like that? Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so my name is Rachael Lillis. I'm from New York. I live in Los Angeles now. And slight, woo, LA or New York, I don't know. But bit of a contrast. I was just like, most of you probably know me from Pokemon. I did the voices of Jessie and Misty, Jigglypuff, Chansey, Blissey, a whole bunch of different Pokemon, lots of pink ones. Speaking of pink, there's Revolutionary Girl Utena. I was in anime like Slayer's Next, Irresponsible Captain Tyler, and some video games, Valkyrie Profile, the Smash Brothers series, and recently my Jigglypuff voice made a cameo in Detective Pikachu, which I haven't seen, but it was supposedly there, and I lived in New York for a long time, and then I recently moved to LA, and I'm acclimating to the lack of blizzards, and so it's very nice to see you all here. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so prepare for questions.
Yeah.
It's going to be double.
Oh, I like that.
It's a two-parter.
First question: playing, Jessie and Misty, did you feel when you went in to do your voice, to do your lines, did you have to put yourself in a different mindset the entire time, or was it just like sort of like two parts of the same coin, like opposite ends, like yin and yang?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I think Misty and Jessie had a lot of similarities, and they had opposing parts. When you voice act, you use your body and as much as your voice. So Misty involved different placement, just different posture, and Jessie was very, very different from that as well. It takes time to develop your character. But over time, the body became as much a part of it as anything else. And Jessie became like a warm-up, because I would do her voice first, we'd go back to the beginning of the script and start over, and then I'd do Misty, and I'd feel more warmed up for Misty, because her voice was a higher placement. So you learn about a lot of things when you take voiceover classes and go to acting classes and things like that. But when you're working on the job, you learn a lot about how you best work. Yeah.
Next question.
Yes.
I know you guys talked about yesterday about some of the characters got more lines in the movies as opposed to the show. Was it a big step up, a big difference for you?
Doing the Pokemon movies as opposed to the Pokemon show,
yeah.
In terms of how the characters were treated. The Team Rocket, I felt like went through 5 episodes of growth in one movie. They went from being, reciting the motto and going after the twerps to, collaborating with them and having to save the day. And I think at one point, didn't they sacrifice themselves? They kind of, so they think, oh my God, we just did a good thing. Is that good? No, that's bad. So that was a very different thing. I felt like there was just a more organic kind of feel to the movie sometimes. So I do think that because the movies often could explore darker things, I think that Team Rocket got a little bit more airtime because of that. So it was interesting.
And I just want to say, always love Team Rocket. Even to this day, people ask me a question, I'll say, meow, that's right. Sorry, big nerd.
Well, that's very lovely, meow. Thank you for the questions. Great questions. Anyone? Yes.
So, in playing 2 major roles in the Pokemon series, did that really put a strain on your voice at all, where you had to conserve yourself in a way?
The question is, did playing Jessie and Misty put a strain on my voice? And did I have to do anything to help the voice adjust? It could get pretty intense sometimes. I think for those of you who have seen this, do you know the episode, The Battle of the St. Anne, the cruise ship? That was the very first episode that we recorded. I don't know why we started with episode 15, but for some reason we did. And I think maybe it was because it was a two-parter and it ended on a cliffhanger or something, or an ocean hanger. But and they thought, okay, we want people to come back to see the next episode. I think that's why they did that. And then we went back to episode 1 and we started from that. Doing both of those voices, that episode was intense. So I learned a lot about not blowing out my voice and not screaming. And Jessie did a lot of screaming. As you all know, anime can animate their heads huge right off their body and make the mouths really big. And in the first season, we had a lot of that, with the teeth getting sharper and everything. And I thought, how loud is that? And the director's like, just make it as loud as you can. And there were a few times when I said, I don't think I can do that again. You know, I'm blowing. So I was starting to get a little bit worried. And so what I did to help things along was take singing classes and speech classes and voice classes. And I took, New York City is very walkable, so I took a lot of long walks just to get some chill out exercise, just to feel a little bit better. Just little things like that to help the voice health. And actually, you just reminded me of, I've told this story before. When we first started working on Pokemon, they said, well, you're doing the voices of Musashi and Kasumi. And I didn't know what their English names were yet. So the first day is when I learned their English names. I said, oh, Jessie and Misty, okay. And so we did tons of work on the St. Anne episode. We went back and re-recorded it, and there was so much work. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have a voice left because there's so much intensity. And then I kind of started to get used to it. People who work in a lot of video games will say that. You kind of get used to a certain intensity. And then I would wake up in the morning and go, oh, okay, it's still there. And so after we finished, I thought I was done. I didn't realize that Jessie and Misty were recurring characters. Nobody told me that. I thought that they were just in that episode, that two-parter, and then Ash and Pikachu, maybe Brock, I don't know, would go off to the next town and meet new people, a new female-male companion maybe, or new villains. That's what I thought Pokemon was. I had no clue that they were recurring. So after all that work and after oh my gosh, okay, gotta get used to this. And then I thought the job was done after a couple of weeks. And I thanked the director and I said, thank you for the job. I really enjoyed working with you. I learned a lot. If you ever need voice actors again, please give me a call. And I'd be more than happy to come back, be honored, And he was looking at me as I was talking to him like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, we're done, right? And he said, no. And I said, oh, did they come back in another episode? And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, well, how many episodes are they going to be in? And he said, all of them. And then I started to get a little nervous. And I said, how many episodes are in a season? And he said, 52. And I kind of had a Dustin Hoffman Tootsie moment. And I went, I honestly didn't know if I could handle it. I was like, and for those of you who've seen Tootsie, his character, he dresses up like a woman to be in a soap opera. They pick up his option for another year, so he has to dress like a woman for another year, and he's like, so, yeah. Anyway, so that's how I found out that Jessie and Misty were recurring. So yeah, that all played into your question. That's a long answer, but that all played into the process of growing all of that mushed together into that one experience. So yeah, I don't know how that information slipped through the cracks. Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea, and I thought, I don't know if I can handle it, but I just didn't say anything. I kept going back, said, please let me handle it. So I need a job. you for the question.
Back there.
Hey there. So yesterday I know you guys said that like there's some line for it. They see like good luck like performing it.
Do your best, yeah.
Yeah. And I was wondering like, were there any? I guess in summary, I'm asking like, when it came to like performing the to be a master CD and all that, like what was the difference between like that and the show? And were there any of those like do your best moments in that?
You know, there weren't a lot of opportunities for improv. So recording the To Be a Master CD, everything was very tightly scripted because, you know, they had, you know, to protect the world from devastation. And I recorded it separately from Eric, so it was very tightly done. Team Rocket kind of had that motto thing, so that was a little unique to that. So there wasn't a lot of improv. But yeah, I don't really know. I think when we recorded the Christmas album, we had a little bit more room for improvisation. For those of you who might be familiar with the Christmas album, that was recorded just on our free time, just because we felt like it. And and so that was a different experience in terms of doing your best. It's like, how are we going to do this? I mean, how are we going to translate Pokemon into a Christmas carol? We don't quite know. So yeah, there were things like that. In the show, yeah, there were a lot of do your best moments because Japanese is so different from English, and sometimes you just can't adapt it, and sometimes you just sort of have to think on your feet. So yeah, there were times like that. But recording the album, no, that was pretty strictly done. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go here and then we'll go to you.
You said you've taken classes for voice acting and stuff like that. What actually got you into voice acting? What made you want to do it or just fall into it?
I was always doing voices ever since I have a lot of siblings, and they tell me stuff that I don't remember. Like when I was little, I did a lot of voices. I watched a lot of cartoons and I watched a lot of movies, and I really liked to do voices and accents, and I just imitated everything that I saw. And I mean, my sister tells me that when, like, The Wizard of Oz would come on TV and the Lullaby League would show up, I did the, like, I guess what you would call the Jigglypuff voice at that time. It's like, and I did that like when I was like 4 years old. And yeah, and I would just imitate everybody. And you would have, I don't know, Claudia Cardinale in a spaghetti western saying, you know, talking like this, you know. And I would just like imitate everybody and just do English accents and sort of things. And everyone thought I was just nuts. And I was like, why is she doing that? Well, my mom's like, you know, mother of 6 children, and so she's like, she keeps her busy. So like, all right. And then, I don't know, I think my sister said one day, I asked how cartoons are made, and she said, well, you got people who draw the pictures and people who do the voices. And as soon as I heard that that was a job that existed, I said, I want to do that. And like, they're like, oh, no, that's just for Mel Blanc. That he's the only person who does that. You know? And but as I grew up, I never shook that. But I was too shy to do the plays. I grew up in Texas, so the cheerleaders and football players did all the musicals anyway. So there was never any room for the, you know, geek. But but I started taking acting classes and started getting into it that way. And then I took singing classes and started doing extra work in opera because I could blend into an opera chorus. And because you can get like $70 per performance or something, so I thought, oh, I'll do that on the side. So there was like little things that you would do just to learn, but I didn't like do it all like as a degree program. It was just like piecemeal. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So we have you, and then there was one other. Did you raise your hand too, and I missed you? Okay, perfect. So go ahead.
Hello. Okay.
Speaking of the album, there was one song that I listened to with Veronica, It Takes Two.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys record that together?
We did. That was one of the very few things. It's interesting you asked that. That was one of the very few things that we recorded together. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think it was for a video game where two people play. Does anyone know if that's accurate? I think it's like, you know that song, It Takes Two, baby. That's what we did with Ash and Misty. But yeah, that was recorded simultaneously. So it was a new experience. There was a lot of singing, like those Kids WB promos were almost all singing. It's like, oh my God. So yeah, yeah. I think we did that separately. Yeah, we just did the intro, but another singer sang the song. Yeah.
And do you have any favorite lines that you remember from Jessie or Misty?
Gosh, favorite lines of Jessie and Misty. Well, does anybody here have any favorites? Like anything that they? Yeah.
Whenever
The motto? Like, prepare for trouble. Yeah. Yeah. And I liked when they changed up the motto, too. That was a lot of fun. It's like an evil as old as the galaxy. And, yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. And there was singing in that, too. So we're like, geez. See, in Japan, so many voice actors are recording artists. And so we're like, oh, geez, they're singing again. So, hey, we're down with that. That's crazy. It's fun. Yeah, I can't think of anything. Like Misty, I like some of the battle stuff. She was in the World Cup, and she did pretty well in the World Cup. And so she did a lot of cool battling in that. So that was a lot of fun. I can't think of any individual lines offhand, though. Sorry.
Off the top of my head, for Jessie, there was an episode with the Evie brothers. Do you guys remember that? And Misty, you were talking to yourself, right? Because it's Jessie and Misty fighting, and Misty called you an old hag. And Jessie was like, what? And then it zoomed in to like the crinkles in her face, and then she like breathed fire. Yeah. And then Meowth, who was voiced by Maddie Blaustein, he was like, oh my God, Jessie literally evolved into a Flareon. But so I just remember that whole bit because it's my favorite in the whole series.
Yeah,
so
and
but you actually did the like wah, like the fire breathing sounds.
The fire breathing sound.
But that was fun.
It's like and people like that exchange a lot. And they do the close-up, like the Rolling Stone close-up on her lips. Yeah, forget it, you old hag. We won't let you do that. What? What did you just call me? And I don't know if I can scream right now.
No, you don't have to.
I've been talking to the con a lot.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Like, I can light some hairspray on fire. Make the effect, but not the noise.
That made my day. Thank you. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Oh my God, I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry. Just like a little nervous.
You don't show it. You don't show it. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Have you done any other courses besides Pokemon?
Yes, I've worked on various other anime, and there's some prelay shows. I just finished working on Hunter x Hunter, playing Coco, who provides the color commentary for all the battling. For those of you who aren't familiar with Hunter x Hunter, it's a series about battling again, but they actually fight to the death. It's human beings fighting each other to the death, and you would actually see some of it as we were dubbing, and Coco loved every second of it. She's like, wow, he's gonna go for the move, and he's dead. And I'm like, wow, she sleeps at night somehow. So, yeah, so I'm like, this is just a cartoon. But yeah, and then I played Aunt Mito in that show as well, and she was just a very nurturing, come home soon, Gone, and kind of motherly, and lots of other things that were recorded in New York City at the time. Utena, Slayers, all sorts of different shows, like His and Her Circumstances, just Genshiken, which is one of my favorites. Genshiken is kind of meta because it's about fandom. It's an anime about anime fandom. And it's a club of people who just kind of get together and talk about anime and manga and things like that. And I played, oh no, who's very shy, and I like cosplay. And she's just like, oh, speak up, honey. But that's a lot of fun getting to play. They had a really big variety, so I got to play a lot of different types of characters. Yeah, and yeah, so LA is kind of different from New York in that regard because they tend to be more intense shows meant for Cartoon Network, but New York was a little bit more aesthetic. Yeah. Yes.
You had mentioned, that you did the voice acting classes, piecemeal.
Mm-hmm.
How long was it before you decided you wanted to do voice acting that you got to Pokemon?
Well, I moved to New York City in order to study acting, and when I was there, the first summer that I was there, I was going to acting school, and I got an acting trade newspaper, and there was an ad in there for anime voice actors, and I answered it. And I showed up at the audition and just wound up getting cast as like newscaster number 8 and student number 4, and I just kept in touch with them over time. And then about a year and a half later, they auditioned for Pokémon. And Pokémon was just one of many auditions. I was auditioning for Shakespeare Regional Theater. Then go, and it's like, well, where's the Pokemon audition? Oh, well, it's at this dude's apartment, the Lower East Side. So, went to his apartment, and, he had a home studio, and, he had the first episode of Pokemon where Ash meets Pikachu, and he puts on the pink gloves, and he has the clothesline, and he's pulling Pikachu, and Pikachu goes up into the tree and laughs at him and everything. That was the first segment of Pokemon that I saw, and immediately I fell in love with it. And I said, well, I'd watch this show. And this looks like a lot of fun. I love cartoon. I love animation. And I said, well, gee, I hope I get something on this, because this looks really adorable. And so that was kind of how the Pokemon audition went. And there were tons and tons of callbacks for it was weeks and weeks and weeks of auditioning for that. So I would say, like, in the span of like maybe a year and a half, just taking acting classes and other classes and things like that, and adjusting to New York City. I moved like 5 times that summer, sublet to sublet. So for those of you who've ever lived in New York, it's like, but yeah, that was a lot happening in a short period of time. So yeah. Yes.
Go ahead. So how different was it voicing Jigglypuff in the anime versus the Smash Brothers video game? Which one was more difficult?
Well, in the show, the Jigglypuff did all kinds of things. It would sing and it would do regular reactions, but it would also fall down pits and roll down hills and do battling and everything. But it didn't do as much battling as it did in the games. And the games were mostly battle moves, and not to picture, as opposed to the anime. So I had no idea what Jigglypuff was doing. And I, again, not much of a gamer, and I haven't really seen the Smash Brothers thing at all, just some of the videos that people have put up on YouTube. And there's a lot of Jigglypuff just basically floating around and occasionally landing upon. I don't know. It's like, how do you control that thing? It's like, oh yeah. And so so yeah, it's mostly just battle stuff. It's like, and but in the anime, it's more, I don't know, legato, if you want to use a musical term. Like, so it's kind of, yeah, they're two different animals. They did feel different to me. So yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
Which one would you say is trickier?
I would say probably because you get used to doing things to picture for a while. With the anime, the video games were trickier because I'm like, you're looking for a monitor to look at to guide you. But yeah, When you don't have a picture to go by, you just sort of use your imagination. So I kind of imagine Jigglypuff punching things, or just basically launching its entire body at things, but bouncing right off as well. So I'm thinking, all right, are there repercussions? Does it take any damage? How does it do that? So you really, and they would do like short reactions, like Jigglypuff, short reaction, medium, long. So all number of combinations. So it had nothing to do with linear storytelling at all. Just all what might happen in the game. Yeah. So the games can be challenging that way. Yeah. But Jigglypuff, I don't know. It's just kind of it's just kind of like a versatile that way. You just kind of have fun with it no matter what. But yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Go ahead, and then we'll come to you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were several episodes where you voiced Pikachu instead of Ikuiatani.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story behind that? Like why they didn't use it for those few episodes?
I don't know technologically why they didn't. I just knew that they couldn't at the time. I was originally cast as Pikachu, and I did a few episodes, and part of that whole, Jessie and Misty are recurring characters, really. I just thought from then on, I'd just be doing Pikachu. But then I showed up for work one day, and they said, yeah, we're going to go with the Japanese. We're not going to use your voice anymore for that. And so, and I think that was a good choice. I really like Ikuiatani's take on the character. Somehow they worked it out, technically. I don't know why they couldn't at first. But yeah, so I was originally Pikachu, and then we recorded a few things, and then they said, we're going to see if we can work it out. We could use the Japanese original. So yeah, I think at that time we were just figuring everything out as we went, because we had no idea how to handle some things. It was a lot of work, and so I was sorry to see Pikachu go, though, because I love Pikachu. They're so cute. But I kind of agreed with him. I said, I think that's if you can make it work, I think it's a better fit. So yeah, so I really don't know why they couldn't, though. Pro Tools didn't do it, I guess. I don't know.
All right, so I promised you, and then we'll go back. Perfect.
Was it hard to go back and forth between, I guess, different Pokemon like Jigglypuff, Lucy, and Jessie, Lucy and Chansey, versus going back to the new characters, and was it hard to join the two?
Well, this is kind of going back to Pro Tools. Pro Tools is just it has a lot of different levels, and so many times you just do one track at a time. So you would just start with, Jessie, and go through the whole script, and then go back to Misty, and then go back and do the various Pokemon. So yeah, Jigglypuff would be one track on its own, and we'd go through the whole thing and just look for Jigglypuff cues and do that. So it would just, there weren't many occasions where I would say, prepare for travel. I'm a water Pokemon master. And then, there wasn't a lot of that going on. There was mostly just getting used to one, switching, and then switching, which is a lot easier for everybody. Yeah. I've gotten familiar with Pro Tools since then, and it's okay, that's why we did it. So, yeah. It's not easy, it really is not easy to switch from placement to placement, and it's not a really great idea. I learned that and this is going to sound weird, but in singing classes, there's for example, Mozart, he would compose arias just for singers to show off their voices. And there's one aria, I think it's called Spiegatevi Addio, and it's called an insert aria, and it's in somebody else's opera. And the reason they did insert arias was so that opera singers could show off their ranges. If they weren't satisfied, it's well, I want to show off more. I want to show them that I can literally go from, what was it, a B3 to a D6. a 17-note jump. And that happens in this aria. Mozart did stuff like that for singers because singers wanted to stand out. And that's incredibly unhealthy and for the voice. And you probably all know the Queen of the Night aria from the Magic Flute, and that goes up to an F6. People just did that just so that they could say, look what I can do. But it's just like, darn, I mean, the human voice just, if you can do that naturally, great, but you gotta be careful. So, so we would always, so all the voice actors involved in Pokemon were all very conscious of that. They're like, I'm going to do James first and then Brock. We're going to work on Ash. We're going to get the placement right. And then when Veronica's like, okay, let's take a break, that we were all very conscious of that. And that was just as much of a learning curve as anything else. So I learned a lot doing those characters. It was like a class in of itself. I had no clue what I was doing. But yeah, so I learned a lot during those early times. Yeah.
So I didn't forget about you. Go ahead.
So like, how was it to like just experience like Pokemania, like just being around? Like, was it like a point where it's like overwhelming, or was it just like, haha, we're better than Power Rangers?
I didn't really feel it. I didn't feel it really. I guess maybe because we were just recording it in this small room, and that was kind of a bubble. I called it the Manhattan Project. That's like, oh my God, that's so funny. But it's like, we were just kind of isolated, and I didn't really, I got little bits and pieces of notifications that people were actually watching the show. But when it started to do incredibly well, I was like, well, how well could it do? It's like at 6:30 in the morning. So, but I started to get letters from parents saying, my daughter, my son, I could never get him out of bed in the morning to go to school. So now we're like, okay, if you get out of bed and finish your homework, get dressed, and eat your breakfast, you can watch Pokemon. But Pokemon gets them out of bed to go to. I'm like, how? Okay. And then for some reason it had that effect. And one woman came up to me at a convention. She said, "What is this Pokemon do?" It just came out of nowhere, and now my kids are obsessed. And I said, I didn't really understand the obsessive aspect of it. I just knew that I thought it was kind of a cute, cool show. It was kind of novel it's like a battling anime kind of thing, but it's also about these kids who want to help everybody and do good deeds for people. So yeah, for me it was just like from the inside, and I didn't really feel the Pokemon. Like I'd say maybe I saw like a huge poster of Pikachu in Times Square, and that's when I really started to think, maybe this is having an influence on people. So really, but when you're inside and you're just kind of like, you're reciting the Team Rocket motto and you're thinking, wait a minute, do I need milk? So I'm like, wait a minute, you're not really thinking about too much. You kind of get used to it. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting? I think Tara actually shared this on her Twitter, and we follow each other, and I thought it was interesting. She said something, I think she shared an article about, you can just like look it up, people who've watched Pokemon have like I think it's like a CT scan or MRI that shows that their brain is different than someone who has not watched Pokemon. So like there's a spot, like there's a place in our brain that is just, right? That's just Pokemon.
There's a Pokemon spot in your brain, literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we all share that in common, which I think is pretty special.
Wow. Like when you learn a new language kind of thing and you get a new thing in your brain?
It's like a wiring, like a Pokemon wiring.
Like a pleasure receptor, or like
I don't know the details. I don't.
Brain scans reveal the Pokemon region in adults and adults.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my Lord.
Like the article, just put Pokemon brain.
Yeah.
Pokemon brain. Oh God, that like, oh man, is this like the Matrix or something?
I know, it's pretty trippy.
It's terrifying.
It's
This is a good version of the Matrix if it is.
right. We've got a question there, and I think you had a question too. So after him, we'll go to you.
So on that topic, is the cancer reaching the brain or the...
Oh,
That's clever. That's clever.
they're very good.
Go ahead.
Back to like the talk about the Pokemon center of the brain. When you were doing the voices, you know, when you Misty, Jessie, or you know, the Pokemon, everybody talks to themselves. You know, they're trying to work stuff out in their head. When you were doing that on your own, away from the recording studio, did you ever talk in a character's head, like in your head, your inner voice was, you know, Misty or Jessie?
Yeah, the Pokemon region of my brain would engage. The closest answer to your question is that I sometimes like do Jigglypuff when I'm washing dishes or something, and the walls in my apartment building are kind of thin, so just washing dishes and everything. And just like, not necessarily Jigglypuff, but just that Lullaby League voice. And my neighbors are like, did I just hear like Jigglypuff or something in your, I heard something from your apartment, it sounded like Jigglypuff. We don't know each other's names, he just moved in. And it's like, oh, nice to meet you, and everything. Like, yeah, I just had a question. I thought I heard something weird from your apartment. Like, were you watching Pokemon or something? Like, I thought I heard Jigglypuff from your apartment. And I said, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Halo, innocent. So.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so you and then you. Go ahead.
So for the Team Rocket motto, did you actually have to record it every single time for every single episode? They didn't recycle it? Really?
Yes. Yeah, recorded every single time.
I mean, because I know that there are variations of it from one episode to the next, but they never recycled the lines like they did with Pokemon.
No, we did the motto fresh version every time. Yeah, freshly baked. And they changed the motto so many times. They would have different costumes and different backgrounds and takes and everything. Sometimes they'd sing it. It's like they did a karaoke version of it, and it's like, what do those numbers mean on the karaoke machine? It's like, So there was always something different. So yeah, it was always a different motto. It was like the show just turned it into a running gag, basically. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Go ahead.
So I was just curious how you picked the voices for a character, or if the director does it for you. Like, how do you find the voice for the character? Finding a voice for a character, you go in an audition and they give you a description, sometimes a picture. In the case of Pokemon, I didn't see any pictures. There was like a one-sentence description of Musashi, for example. It didn't really have a lot to go on with Pokemon, but with many other shows, yeah, they might have artwork to show you. Usually they'll just say, well, it's a young girl or an older female character, and this very serious, very studious, or very wicked or evil, or they'll just go into archetypes, and that'll tell you something about tonality, timbre, attitude, whether they want an accent. Sometimes the director will make a suggestion, like, do you have an English accent, do you have a Russian accent? But most of the time, you can go for a certain tonality, an age range, or an attitude, depending. Auditioning, that's why you have to do so many auditions, because they're just looking for the right people to fit. So, yeah, you just come up with the best that you can in the moment.
Yeah, don't feel too bad about that, because with me, when I mirror people automatically, and I think a lot of people are like that. Mm-hmm. So when there's a cool accent, I have to catch myself not to like suddenly speak in like a British accent, because that would be so offensive. So don't feel too bad. Like sometimes I actually do it like on the spot when I'm talking to someone. I'm like, that is so rude.
Yeah, my grandmother was from Ireland and from Cork, and she lived in the States for a sizable portion of her life. But when I was growing up, she would say, "Well, I'm going to the Spar with Douglas and Myrtle and a bunch of people, and we're gonna maybe just have a weekend of it." And I'd be like, "Okay." Going to and for years, I thought she was saying this bar. We're going to this bar, like this bar, and I'm thinking, you're going there every other weekend. You're not like to knock them back or something. And so she's like, yes, we're going to this bar again. And I'm like, have fun. And she's like, I'm really looking forward to it, because this weekend we're getting a special on a rub down. So I'm going to get a rub down and all that at this bar. And I'm like, what kind of bar is this? So finally I asked her, so you're going to, so what is this bar you go to? And she said, no, this bar. This bar. And she said, no, the Spar. Spar? Like boxing? And she said, no, you gave me article, no. S-P-A, the spa. And I was like, oh, not the whole rub down thing makes sense now, but but when I talk about her sometimes, she used to fly to visit us through DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And she said, and rest her soul, I don't mean to make fun of her, but it's like everyone in my family imitates how she would say Dallas-Fort Worth. She would say Dallas-Fartworth. Fartworth. So are you from Fartworth? I'm from Fartworth. But yeah, you don't want to offend anybody, but it's hard not to pick up on it, because there's just something kind of endearing about them. You feel like you're, I don't know, getting to know them or something in a way. But yeah, I gotta watch that. Yeah. Can't mirror people in front of them.
That's a great story.
The Spar. Let's all go to the Spar, shall we? After the
I'm
panel.
gonna say it like
After
that.
the panel, let's get
so funny.
Let's get a rub down at the Spar.
You were probably so alarmed too. You're like, she's going to the bar and getting a rub down. That's not great.
And she said they use alcohol for the rub down. I said, I should think so. They got plenty of it lying around. So.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. That's amazing. By the way, shout out to the Misty cosplay over there. I see you.
You look awesome.
I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. And then I think Ash Ketchum is in the back too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's so many awesome costumes.
Yeah. No, wonderful. So shout out to all of you.
Yeah, you guys look awesome. Fabulous.
So we have time for a few more questions.
Okay.
Okay, so what we'll do, we'll go with you and then we'll go with you. And then did I miss someone back here? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. All right, perfect.
On the topic of accents, are there any accents that you don't get to use as often as you would like to?
Oh gosh. Not as often as voice acting, but in film acting, I've played a few Russian characters because they tend to call me in if I ever do on camera, which is very rarely. Or theater, they usually call me in for the non-American character. And they say, can you do a Russian accent? And that's not the kind of thing that comes up very often in voice acting. But, they said, you look a certain ethnicity. And they can't ask you what your ethnicity is, but they said, can you play this accent? So stuff like that comes up. Because if you're not, I hate to say this, but casting is very, it's very difficult if you don't look a certain way, and if they can't immediately peg your ethnicity as Caucasian, they tend to say you'll play the non-American character. So that accents have come up and on camera because of, I don't look, because I'm not. I don't look American to them. So, that's come up. Yeah. I don't know. know. For an audiobook, an Indian accent came up. And they are so particular about that, and it's like, well, no, that's off limits. You have to be specifically from India to do that. So there is a lot of particular stuff that comes up. So you don't get to do as many accents as you can, because a lot of times they call in people from those countries, because in voiceover you can do everything electronically. So the on-camera stuff is where the challenge has been. So that's an interesting question. You haven't thought about that in a while. Thank you for asking. But it's an interesting perspective. Yeah, you learn a great deal from that.
All right, and then you can go ahead.
Back on the topic of Pokemon, how did you feel like when you had to return as Misty back in the Hoenn Saga?
In the Hoenn Saga, what was it like to come back as Misty in the Hoenn Saga? It was kind of emotional. I missed her, and there was a whole like interesting thing with Togepi and the other kingdom, and Team Rocket played a very significant role. So I thought that she just got right back in the saddle. It's like she can't breathe for 5 minutes, can she? She shows up in the episode and boom, Team Rocket captures her. So it's like, oh, welcome back, Misty. So I enjoyed that very much. I enjoyed it. I think that she had matured a lot. She was counseling people. She was telling Max, you gotta be nicer to your older sister because she cares about you. I mean, Misty from Indigo was like, my older sisters are so mean to me, So, but in Hoenn, she was like, oh, you just gotta listen. You gotta have faith in them. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool how they progressed that way.
So you speak about Misty so fondly, and I don't blame you. She's one of my favorites.
I love her.
But I'm wondering, is there, if you could pick one character that you've played over the years that resonates with you specifically, which one would it be?
Any character ever?
Any character ever.
Any character ever?
Yeah. That you think resonates with you most, and it just comes to mind most often.
Well, I would have to pick Misty because, I'm getting emotional.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you emotional.
No, and I cry at the drop of a hat. Anyone who can relate?
Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah.
I cry when I see people cry, so I'm gonna look away. I'm gonna look away when you.
Yeah. It's like don't. Yeah. Got to put up like a whole wall right here. I know it's powerful. Misty, right after I got over the shock of finding out that Misty was a recurring character, it's like, what? It was then revealed, and maybe you guys can help me out with this, the episode where we first meet Misty's sisters. Does anyone know what that is?
Yeah, I think it's Sisters of Cerulean City.
Sisters, thank you.
Yeah.
And
gotcha.
Thank you so much. It's revealed that she's the youngest of 4 girls. And I was like, and I'm the youngest of 6 girls. And I know, Irish Catholic. So Italian and all the other European nations that go into the DNA. But yeah, there was just like a lot of familiarity, because as soon as I found that out, and her sisters, and I don't mean to invoke any, I'm not fishing for any awes, but my sisters kind of treated me in a very similar way when I was growing up. They kind of teased me the same way that Misty's sisters teased her, and I was just watching this episode with my jaw on the floor because it was just so freaking relatable. And the director said, okay, now, Misty's sisters, okay, we meet them in this episode. They're not very nice to her. What you want to do, you approach it from, and I said, I got this. I mean, you can go to lunch if you want, so I don't need any directing, all right? Yeah, it was just so familiar. And the episode aired, and I think I told you this.
Yeah,
okay,
you did. Yeah, yesterday you did, yeah.
The episode aired, and I got a phone call from one of my sisters, and she said, how do they know about our family? Did you tell the people in Japan about us? How do they know about it? She was serious. She wasn't kidding. I'm not joking. This is an honest question because I saw the episode and she's like, well, how do they know about us? Did you tell them that we were mean to you? Because I don't know if I care for that. And I said, no, I didn't say. Japan is 2 years ahead of us. That episode came out 2 years ago before any of the voice actors was even cast. So I just found out about that. And she's like, uh-huh. I don't believe, okay, fine. And then she would watch the episodes from time to time, and if she happened to catch one with Misty's sisters in it, she'd be like, you told them we were mean to you, didn't you? She was convinced it was about us. And I said, some things are just, universal. I mean, siblings can do that to each other sometimes. So, I'm doing all these long answers, but anyway, I relate to Misty because of her family, very much so. And also because maybe this is just like, I don't know, maybe it's just bias, but I do like water Pokemon the best. I do like them a lot. If I were a gamer, I think I would probably start with Squirtle. That would be my starter, so. So that's a very lovely question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for answering it.
Thank you.
I loved it.
I appreciate it.
So I think we'll do one more, if that's okay with you,
Sure,
and then we'll close
absolutely.
out. So go ahead. It'll be our last question.
The opposite question is your voice that you just hate doing.
Your voice I hate doing?
If you can say that.
Oh, I guess like any voice that hurts the voice. And that can be different for every single person. For most people, can be like shouting and screaming, and that's not my favorite thing to do. Like for video games, I don't particularly like that very much. And that's something else you have to get used to. That takes practice to get used to. So you do get used to it, but it's not easy. It's like something you really kind of have to work at and practice. So that's tough. And yeah, I would say anything that's just like all intensity, no peaks and valleys, just full on intensity all the time. That's not easy. That's not physically easy to do. There are people who specialize in that. There are people who are just amazing. They're very resilient, and they get a lot of work in video games. So kudos to them if they can pull that off. But yeah, I think that's probably the hardest thing.
All right. So
Yeah.
before we say goodbye, thank you for being here, Rachel. Seriously.
Thank you for having me, guys.
It's our
Thank you for coming to the panel. Yeah.
It's an honor, and thank you all for being here too. I know it's a Saturday, and I mean, I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me because I told Samantha over there that I graduated law school last year, and then I realized I was officially an adult because I was like done with my education, and I was going through like a crisis because I was like, I miss being a child. So the first thing I did was I watched Pokémon again with my sister, and then I was lucky enough to join the Game on Expo team, and then I thought, you know what, I think we need a reunion, and what I wanted to do is to make sure that they had a great time, and also I wanted you guys to have a great time. So it means a lot to me to see all of you here enjoying this because that's my happiness right now. It makes me so happy to see you here and taking part in this. So thank you so much.
Wow.
All
Mina, I
right.
had no idea that was the process.
Yeah,
That's
that was
amazing.
the process. It was interesting how that happened. I actually returned to Pokemon after law school, so I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably that region of the brain.
It's the region
right?
that your brain
It's like
started-
overpowering. But I just
started
wanted to
lighting up.
let you know that Rachel's signing for the rest of the day.
Yep.
So please stop by her table and say hi to her and get
Yeah.
stuff autographed and take selfies and have fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.